What is going on, people? This is JONETH PIPTNE, and I'm back with another podcast. This is the first podcast that I've done since week 6. Took a long hiatus, but I'm here with Kofi Ohemeng.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Kofi from KL Sports Talk, and I'm here with JONETH PIPTNE. We're going to be discussing everything Bears and Saints, so I'm really glad to talk about it. Let's get it started.
And now transitioning over to the Bears versus the Saints. It's going to be a very tough game for the Bears. They have basically no chance, according to everybody else around, except for the few Bears fans like me, Kofi, the Ghost of Judah Tribe, the Windy City Productions. There's a lot of people out there that's really rooting for the Bears, but of course you still have the fellow Bears fans that's basically not giving us no chance, the critics, the analysts, everybody. So we're going to talk about basically what the Bears have to do and the keys to the game to make sure that they get this victory over the New Orleans Saints, and also talk about injury reports, statistics. We're going to bring it all to you, people. But first, we're going to tell you the quick story of the Bears and the Saints. Of course, we know what happened to the Bears and the Saints, but we're still going to break it down for you, just let you know what's been going on and what led up to this point of the Bears versus the Saints. So I'm going to have Kofi break it down for you guys, so you can know exactly what's going on. Kofi?
Okay. All right, guys. So the Bears, they come in 8-8, and the Saints, they come in at 12-4. So two teams, they're going to be playing they have something to play for this season. So the Bears, they started off 5-1. They went on a 3-0 winning streak. It's been a little bit of a quarterback carousel between Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles. You know, Mitchell Trubisky, he started off 3 games at first until the Atlanta game, and then Matt Nagy, he benched Mitchell Trubisky in the Atlanta game. And ever since then, the Bears were 2-5 with Nick Foles at quarterback. But since these past couple games for the Bears, with Mitchell Trubisky at the helm, they went 3-2 these past 5 games. And the offense, ever since Mitchell Trubisky came in, they've been averaging over 30 points. And the defense has been falling off this past couple games. So the defense, they've been carrying this team for the past 9 games. So on to the New Orleans Saints. They kind of started off slow with Drew Brees. He's been age has kind of been catching up to him. You know, he doesn't have that deep arm like he did when he was in his prime and how he's been playing. But he still has been serviceable. He's still been accurate. But the Bears, they have their work cut out for them. Michael Thomas is expected to come back, as well as Alvin Kamara, who's coming off the COVID-19 protocol. So this is going to be a really tough game for the Bears. And so we're going to be breaking down a lot of stats. We're going to be breaking down some numbers. So, I can't wait to get into it.
And to start it off first, we're going to be talking about that dynamic Saints offense, who is ranked 5th total in offense and 12th in yards. So there's a very dynamic offense. Drew Brees is still, like I said before, and like Kofi said before, even though he does not have that same arm strength that he had maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 10 years ago, he is still very accurate. He knows how to fit the ball down the field to his receivers. He already has a 70% completion percentage, something that he's been doing basically since he's been in New Orleans. He's constantly been somewhere between 67 to 72% completion percentage. This year, only been able to play in 12 games, he is 9-3. He did complete 275 out of 390 attempts for almost 3,000 yards, 2,942 yards, 24 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. Of course, you had Taysom Hill, who came in and had to play quarterback for him. He did pretty well. He was 3-1 in those games, which let a lot of people know that Drew Brees is really not the main reason why the Saints is going to win. He's just a part of it now. He used to be at one point one of the main reasons why they win, but now he's just become part of the package. And now this season is probably the best time for the Bears to face him, because he is not that same dangerous guy that the Bears faced even back in 2006, even though the Bears wind up winning that game 39-14.
Just like what you said, JONETH PIPTNE, Taysom Hill, he's 3-1 in quarterback record, and he's a very good quarterback. He completed 72% of his passes for around 928 yards. But that's not only the reason why he's also a good passer. He's also a threat with his legs. So right now with Taysom Hill, he's ran for over 400 yards, 457 yards, and he's averaged over 5.3 yards per carry. And I think that he's also going to be a threat to the run game against the Bears, because in the previous matchup, Taysom Hill has been running a lot of wildcat plays, and he's pretty much just carved up our defense. And also another running back threat to the Bears' defense is Alvin Kamara. So with Alvin Kamara, his total yards per scrimmage is over 1,600 yards. It's approximately 1,688 yards. And right now with rushing, he rushed for over 932 yards. He has 16 touchdowns. And not only that, he's also a receiving threat in this game. He's averaged over 756 yards, over 5 touchdowns. But most notably against that Minnesota Vikings game, I'm pretty sure most of you guys know that he had 6 touchdowns in that game. So this guy, he's going to be all over the field. So our Bears defense is going to have to step up this game. And depending on whether Roquan Smith plays or not, this is going to be a pretty tough matchup. And also another threat is Michael Thomas. He's going to come back as well. He's been out for most of this season, but I'm pretty sure that he is also going to play a major role in this game. So right now he's played 7 games, and he's averaged over 438 yards for over 40 receptions. So I expect Michael Thomas to come back and also be a threat in this Bears passing defense. So this passing defense is going to have to step up in regards to whether Roquan Smith plays or Jalen Johnson plays. So, yeah.
Yeah, that is true, but Emmanuel Sanders is another player that the Bears definitely have to look out for. He did have 61 receptions for 726 yards. 5 receiving touchdowns this season. So he is one of those guys that the Bears also have to make sure they look out for. Him and Jared Cook, the tight end, who came in. Of course, he only had 37 receptions for 504 yards, but he was a very good red zone tight end. He does have 7 receiving touchdowns. I think 4 or 5 of those receiving touchdowns specifically come from the red zone. So the Bears do have a lot of weapons that they have to try to neutralize the best way possible, because if not, and they allow the Saints offense to carve them up way worse than they did back in the previous weeks that they played, then the Bears will definitely be in trouble, and they will have to depend solely on their offense, which they have to have somewhat more of a balance from the Bears offense and defense in order to have a shot to even beat the Saints in this game. But with that in mind, now we're transitioning over to that powerful Saints defense, who has been putting in work basically the entire season. Now, the last time, of course, the Bears played the Saints defense, a few guys was out. A lot of guys wasn't performing at the best of their ability, like Cameron Jordan, who was just averaging 10 sacks a season until this season, where he really had basically overall a down year. He did pick it up later on in the year, but during the time that the Bears had played them, he only had like 1.5 sacks. So throughout the year, he did finish with 7.5 sacks. So that's one of the players that definitely you need that work on, and hopefully the Bears offensive line can basically protect Mitchell Trubisky, because if not, with him transitioning over to basically producing way better than he did early in the year, he's going to be a lot more difficult to deal with. But I'm going to let Kofi take over, and he's going to let you know more in depth on what the Bears need to do offensively against his defense. But right now we're talking about the Saints defense.
Okay, so talking about more about the Saints defense, we're going to talk about some impactful players that's going to be in this game. So some of the main players who are going to be impactful are definitely Demario Davis, Marshawn Lattimore, Cam Jordan, Marcus Davenport, and even Malcolm Jenkins too. So with Demario Davis, he was selected second team All-Pro this year, and over the season he had over 73 solo tackles, 46 assisted, 10 tackles for loss, 12 QB hits, with a combined tackle of 119. Then you have Marshawn Lattimore, who had 10 passes defended. He had 3 picks, 2 picks, and 62 combined total tackles. And of course, Marcus Davenport, he has been a game wrecker. I mean, his stats don't tell the whole truth, but he had 1.5 sacks, 21 combined tackles, but he has just been a force within that defensive line. And so the Bears, they're going to have to watch out for these main players, and they're going to have to figure out a way to neutralize some of these defensive players. And so in the last matchup with the Bears, Marcus Davenport was assigned with Charles Leno, and Charles Leno, he lost most of his matchups against Marcus Davenport. And so the Bears are going to have their work cut out for them this game. And now transitioning on to the Bears offense, you know that the Bears total offense is ranked 22nd right now, and the total yards for their Bears offense is ranked 26. So JONETH PIPTNE, he's going to break down a little more on the Bears offense right now. So JONETH.
Yeah, man. But we all know the story of the Bears offense. Early in the year, they wasn't really able to put up a lot of points, mainly due to having a sus quarterback in Nick Foles. And we do know the story about when Trubisky was able to come back in, the Bears was able to score almost 30 points per game, somewhere between 28, 29 points per game, because they did have that letdown against the Green Bay Packers. But the story of the day is their offense and how can they basically go back into form before they played the Packers and be able to put up that 30 plus points per game, and will they be able to do it against this very vicious and very good and very fast Saints defense? Now going into this game, Mitchell Trubisky is 6-3 as a starter. He has completed 199 out of 297 passes, 67% completion percentage, his highest completion percentage of his career. He also has 2,055 passing yards, 16 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Now I already know the easy perception of this Bears offense and the resurgence from Mitchell Trubisky that, yeah, they played the worst defenses in the league, but when other teams played against those worst defenses, most of the time they couldn't even crack 30, and the Bears was able to do it against those horrible defenses. And that does not mean that all of a sudden the Bears won't be able to do it against a good team. It's just that they have to be more effective in the red zone. That red zone offense has been a lot better this season than it was in 2019, but there has been a few spots in there where the Bears just could not get it done, mainly against the Packers, and that's what made a big difference in that game. The Bears have to be able to basically roll reverse and score in the red zone, and that can definitely make the Bears' chances against this New Orleans Saints defense that much easier if they're able to not only drive down the field, but score touchdowns instead of field goals.
All right, now in terms of this Bears offense, these past couple games, these last 5 games, the Bears' red zone offense has been totally efficient. They've been top 3 in the NFL. They've been over 50%. They've converted over 50% in the red zone, and that was with the help of with Bill Lazor and his play calling. He's been incorporating more of a 2 tight end zone set, as well as incorporating the run game more into this game. And so the main thing is that the Bears offense is going to have to incorporate the offense more by using Trubisky's legs, as well as using their identity, which is number 32 in David Montgomery. And so the Bears offense is going to have to incorporate more of these players, getting more of a 2 tight end set, having Jimmy Graham and Cole Kmet more involved in this game in the red zone, because with Jimmy Graham, He's been converting most of his He's been converting most of these red zone offenses in the end zone, and so he's had 8 touchdowns this season, and so they're gonna have to incorporate him more. And also with Cole Kmet too, they're gonna have to incorporate him more likely into this game. So the Bears offense has their work cut out for them this game.
But one of the main things the Bears definitely has to do is to make sure they continuously spread the ball to every skill position that is available. And that's what made this offense so good during that 5-game stretch, even though they lost 2 of them, was the ability to spread the ball to everyone and not just Allen Robinson. Now, we all know that the Saints defense is going to try to take away Allen Robinson and strictly Allen Robinson. But with you having extra receivers, extra bodies out there that you are willing to spread the ball to, that's what make it hard for the defense to basically just be on one guy. And that's what allows that player like Allen Robinson to get open and make those clutch type of catch after runs after the catch and break into the open field and possibly score a touchdown. That's what the Bears definitely going to need from that. But right now I'm going to give it back to Kofi, and he's going to tell you the more of the impact players of this game for this Bears offense and what they need to do in order to win this game. Another step.
All right, so some of these impactful players that's going to be really important in this game is number 32 in David Montgomery. So just like in the previous game against the Packers, the Bears controlled the time of possession from 35 to 24 minutes. So pretty much in that whole entire game, Bill Lazor has been scheming up plays for number 32 and David Montgomery by running the ball more, running play action, running bootleg screens, because the whole game plan was entirely catered to David Montgomery. So the same way, if the Bears want to win this game, is that they have to tailor their game to David Montgomery more. David Montgomery not only can spread the ball out more, but he can also be a deep pass threat in the passing game. So in his yards per scrimmage, he has over 1,500 yards, which is top 5 in the NFL. So in his receiving game, he has over 400 yards, and yards per total is 8.1. And so the Bears offense is going to have to get him involved more in the not only in the rushing game, but also in the receiving game to keep the defense, Saints defense on their toes. And another thing that they have to do is that they also have to use Mitchell Trubisky's legs, use his athleticism. And so since these past couple games, ever since they have incorporated Mitchell Trubisky into the running game has completely changed the outlook of this offense. As you can see, the Bears offense has been averaging over 30 points per game, and that's mainly using Trubisky's athleticism. And the way that they can use Trubisky's athleticism is that they can run a lot of bootleg plays. Like I said, they can run wildcat plays. They can get them in the open field some way that they can keep the defense guessing. Another thing that they can also do is that they also need to get Allen Robinson involved in this game. Allen Robinson, he has over 102 receptions this season. He has over 1,200 yards this season. This man can also be a game changer this season if they use him wisely. And so the Bears, they have to use these 3 main players. They have to use David Montgomery, they have to use Mitchell Trubisky, and Allen Robinson if you guys want to win this game.
But one of the guys that you have to get involved in the game, but not in the run game, get him more involved as a pass receiver. If you do have him in the run game, more end rounds and not just straight up lining up in the backfield as the running back, and that is Cordero Patterson. Now, of course, we all hate the fact that he do be in the backfield and he run the football so much, but at times he can be effective in the running game if he is used correctly, not running the football 7 to 10 times per game, taking away from David Montgomery, but using him and David Montgomery in the backfield at the same time, which will make it even more harder for this Saints defense to be able to figure out which way is they coming, because Cordero Patterson can be a good pass catcher in between at times, and he also can be a very good open field runner, because if Cordero Patterson can get out in the open field, goodbye basically. It doesn't matter who's chasing him, he's going to be able to outrun him. But if the Bears can find a way to incorporate him in the offense in a more better way than just strictly putting him in the backfield as a running back, taking away those carries from David Montgomery, then this Bears offense can once again be that Bears offense that we saw over those past 4 or 5 weeks of putting up over 30 points per game before they faced the Green Bay Packers. Right now we're going to transition over to that Bears defense, and Kofi's going to do the full breakdown with that Bears defense and let you know exactly who's going to be playing and who's not. He's going to do the injury report and let you know that for both teams.
Transitioning on to the Bears defense. The Bears defense is ranked 11th overall in total yards and turnovers, and they're ranked 14th in points given up. And so some of our players are going to have to step up are Roquan Smith, Danny Trevathan, Eddie Jackson, Kyle Fuller, Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks, and Robert Quinn. So with Roquan Smith, he's a game time decision, but with Roquan, he's been having an all-pro season. He should have been a first-team all-pro in my opinion. But with Roquan Smith, he had 139 combined tackles. He was number 1 in solo tackles with 98. He had 41 assisted, number 1 in total tackles for loss, which is 18, and 6 quarterback hits. Danny Trevathan had 113 combined tackles, 67 solo, 46 assisted, 3 tackles for loss, and 2 quarterback hits. Eddie Jackson, even though he's been having a little bit of a down season right now, his some of his turnovers that he's had in the past couple of games has been negated due to the referees. But overall, he's had a solid season. He has 82 combined tackles, 63 solo, and 19 assisted. And Khalil Mack, he's had 9 sacks, 50 combined tackles, 29 solo, 21 assisted. And Akeem Hicks, he's had 3.5 sacks, 49 combined tackles. And also Robert Quinn, even though he's had less numbers, his numbers don't really pop out, but he's, in my opinion, has been solid this season. Even with the injuries that he's had 2 sacks, 20 combined tackles, 14 solo tackles, and 6 assists. So we're going to have to need our star players to step up this game. Primarily Khalil Mack, Robert Quinn, and Akeem Hicks. It's going to have to start from the defensive line. We're going to have Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack is going to have a career game this season. Based on his interview that he's had this past game, he's saying that we're going to have to lay it all out on the line, and there's going to be no stones left unturned. And so we're going to have big games from Khalil Mack. He's going to have to get to the quarterback's face. Akeem Hicks is going to have to get to a quarterback's face. Robert Quinn, they're going to have to get to the quarterback's face. Because if you give Drew Brees some time to throw the ball, he's going to get out to his players, just primarily to his receivers like Alvin Kamara or Michael Thomas, because usually after the catch, those guys, they can run for big plays. So we're going to need our 3 top defensive linemen, and Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks, and Robert Quinn, to get to the quarterback and make Drew Brees throw lopsided passes in order to win this game.
But the thing is, Kofi, one of the main things that this Bears defense has to do, and that is cover their man to the best of their ability. Even when the defense can't get in and get those sacks and put pressure on Drew Brees, the cornerbacks and the safeties going to have to be in overdrive in terms of covering these dynamic receivers. Eddie Jackson's going to have to step it up. Kyle Fuller's going to have to step it up. Tayshaun Gibson's going to have to step it up. We don't know if Jalen Johnson is playing still, but we'll get more on him and the other injured guys later on. But basically, you're going to have a collective form from this defense in order to be able to take on that nasty New Orleans Saints offense, because despite the fact that, like I said multiple times before, Drew Brees does not have the arm to stretch it down the field, but he is fairly accurate. He does have enough arm to get the ball at least 20 yards down the field to his receivers. So the Bears definitely going to have to make sure they put that pressure on him and also not only that, they need the defensive coordinator Chuck Pagano to call the right plays to be able to put the defense in the right position, because skill can only take you so far. Up next is coaching. If the coaching is not on point, if the play calling is not on point, then you cannot expect this defense to be in the right position. We seen poor play calling this entire season. We saw it last year, but it was worse this year than it was last year, because the Bears defense was still top 10 at least last year. This time they're 14th, 15th. So hopefully the play calling can be right, and if it is a lot better than it was against the Green Bay Packers, this Bears defense will feast on Drew Brees and be able to slow down that New Orleans Saints offense. But now we are transitioning over to the injury report, and the injuries is not looking too good for the Bears. Darnell Mooney and Roquan Smith has been downgraded to out for this game, and Kofi will tell you more about this story. Kofi?
So according to the Bears PR, the Bears will be without two of their key starters when they face New Orleans in the Saints wildcard game. So Roquan Smith, who had a hyperextension on his elbow, and receiver Darnell Mooney, who had a sprained ankle, will be downgraded to out after previously been ruled questionable after suffering injuries against Green Bay. And they already activated defensive back Marquis Christian and linebacker Manti Te'o from their practice squad. And this is according to the Bears PR media.
So that is pretty rough for the Bears. They're going to be out with Darnell Mooney, who was their leading receiver last week, and their best linebacker, to me personally, and Kofi, the best linebacker in the league and should have been first team All-Pro.
Best player on the team as well.
Yeah, so it's like the Bears do have it very rough right now, so hopefully the players that's going to replace them can be able to step up. I don't know if Manti Te'o is gonna start. Most likely he is not, so gonna hope that Josh Woods can do a lot better job than he did in the previous week against the Packers. Hopefully he's more in the film room, seeing what he did wrong, seeing what he did right, and try to basically erase majority of those wrongs that he did and try to build on everything right that he did in that game against the Packers. And another guy that's going to have to step up, even though he really has not been playing, and that is Javon Williams. And also, hopefully, they activate Riley Ridley and get him the ball in open space, because it's like, I don't even know why the hell you have Ridley on the team if you're not going to fucking play him. So y'all definitely need to get that type of shit together, like 100. They definitely need to get that together. And Javon Williams, the last time we know the story, the last time he played, he wound up knocking a shot got into a huge scuffle with Gardner Johnson. Hopefully he can just go past that and try to make some type of plays for this team, because with Darnell Mooney going, that's a very good deep threat that is gone, that the Bears is going to be missing. So now that even makes the game plan a little bit harder in stretching the ball down the field, because of course we know Javon Williams is not a speed guy. Ridley can be a speed guy, but you have to get him
a route runner.
Right, you have to get him out in the open field. And we also know that Anthony Miller, he is more of a speed guy too, but he is not as fast as Darnell Mooney. And we know that Allen Robinson is more of a possession receiver, much like Muhsin Muhammad was for the Bears and what he was for the Carolina Panthers throughout his career. So hopefully with that, the Bears can find a way to get that together. And also notable injuries is Buster Skrine, who is out with a concussion. His career might be over, so I'm not expecting him to play. Also, the guy I just mentioned is Josh Woods, who is limited in practice. Jalen Johnson, who is still listed as questionable, he was limited in practice, but that is still a good thing because he hasn't been downgraded to out. That means there's still a strong chance that he might play. Alex Bars had a shoulder injury, but he is a full participant. Deion Bush, the free safety, he is a full participant. He had a foot injury. Tayshaun Gibson had a neck injury, but he's still a full participant. Eddie Jackson with the wrist. Cole Kmet with a shoulder. Charles Leno Jr. with a toe. Asshole, fat motherfucker. Khalil Mack with a shoulder injury. Cordero Patterson, of course, he had personal issues going on. I'm not even gonna, ain't no reason for me to be bringing that up. That's been played out enough. Allen Robinson limited with a small hamstring tweak. Duke Shelley limited with a knee, and also
Kendall Vildor.
Kendall Vildor. I couldn't get that name out. Worse shit. But yeah, that's the injuries to the Bears, and now we transition to the injury report for the New Orleans Saints. And their injury report is not as bad, it's not as long as the Bears, but they do have guys that is hurt.
So some of their main players that's going to be out is Nick Easton, who's the center for the New Orleans Saints. He's out with a concussion. And Trey Hendrickson, who's one of their top defensive ends on the team. He was second in the league with 12.5 sacks this season. So he's had a breakout season. He's going to be out with a neck injury, so that's going to be big. And some of their other players are J.T. Gray, a defensive back. He's a full participant. Josh Hill, tight end, a hand. Taysom Hill, he's going to be full. And Marcus Williams, he's going to be full. So their two top players are Nick Easton and Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson is a big, major one. So that's going to be a big break for the Bears offense. And so the Bears, they're going to have to take advantage of these opportunities if they want to win.
But with that, now we transition over to the predictions. Now, me personally, I'm giving out 2 predictions that can go on with the Bears. Kofi, I don't know if you're giving out 2 predictions as well, because it's one game, you win, you keep going, one game, you go home. So to me, it has to be 2 predictions. It can't just be one, because I'm not that type of guy. Kofi not either. So here we go. And with that first prediction, if everything goes right for the Bears, offensively and defensively, if they're able to put pressure on Drew Brees, then I have the Bears winning this game in a very tight way, 27-24. Cairo Santos basically kicked the game-winning field goal. Of course, our heart is going to jump when it comes down to that last kick because of Cody Parkey. But we're going to remember that, hey, we don't have Cody Parkey. We have Cairo Santos, and he's going to make that game-winning kick for the Bears. But the second prediction is this. It doesn't matter if the offense is able to put up points. If that defense doesn't come to play and the offense isn't able to score in the red zone, much like they did against the Packers, then this can easily turn into basically a 2019 type of game where the Saints put up 36 and the Bears ended with 25 points. And that's my 2 predictions on what I think is going to be. I do not want the Saints to win, but I have to be more, I'll say, basically take my emotions out of it and just be more logical on what could possibly happen in this game. Either the Bears win in a very close game, or the Saints blowing out the Bears, and the Bears go home looking crazy and have egg on their face. And us as Bear fans has been supporting them since the beginning of the season to now, will basically be sitting there looking like, what the fuck? So now I'm going to transition over to Kofi, and he's going to let you know his prediction.
Okay, so with my prediction, I'll say this. If Matt Nagy is calling the plays this game, I'm going to have the Saints winning it 30-16, because we already know what Matt Nagy has done with this offense the first 9 weeks. They haven't been averaging that much points, even with him calling the plays. But if Bill Lazor's calling the plays, he's going to open up the offense more. He's going to get his players more involved. And I think this is going to be a really close game, because if the offense is scoring more points and is keeping their defense fresh to keep the team going, then this is going to be more closer than you think. And I have the same predictions as you, Joneth. I have the Bears winning 27-24, and it's going to be on a Cairo Santos field goal. And it's not going to be like what happened 2 years ago with Cody Parkey missing that 43-yarder, which was a killer.
Just fucking abysmal.
Just abysmal, an abysmal killer. So I have Cairo Santos winning on a 40-yard field goal to seal the deal, and the Bears go on to the divisional round facing the Packers, which is, hopefully that happens. We don't know what's going to happen, or hopefully what happens, but yeah.
Yeah, and that will be another rough game for the Bears. I was definitely hoping that the Bears would not have to take on the Packers until the NFC title game. If the Bears was able to basically go through both those teams, I was hoping that they basically get to be Saints, Seattle. But the number one team always take on the lowest seed. I really don't know why. I guess it's to make sure the number one seed make it as far as they can. But hopefully the Bears can also beat them as well, which that's going to be a lot tougher going against the Packers than going against this New Orleans Saints team. But if I was a coach, I would say basically can't look that far ahead. Me as a fan can't look that far ahead. Right now, all we can do is just basically focus on the Bears versus the Saints and hope that the Bears be able to pull it off. But once again, this is JONETH PIPTNE back this time with my podcast featuring me and Kofi Ohemeng. And all right, people, peace out and go Bears this Sunday.